Pope Sylvester II, France, 1000 AD. At the dawn of the first millennium, Pope Sylvester II stood as a beacon of the Catholic Church, yet he is infamous for perpetuating one of the earliest apocalyptic panics in recorded history. As the year 1000 approached, Sylvester, along with other religious leaders of the time, fueled widespread fears that the world would end. They pointed to biblical texts, particularly the Book of Revelation, interpreting the millennium as the final chapter of humanity. Across Europe, hysteria gripped the masses. Farmers abandoned their fields, convinced they had no need to plant crops. Nobles relinquished their wealth to monasteries in the hope of securing divine favor. Entire communities gathered in churches, trembling as they awaited the end of days. When the clock struck midnight on January 1st, 1000, and the world continued spinning, the fallout was catastrophic. Starvation ensued in regions where agriculture had been abandoned, economies teetered on collapse due to reckless wealth redistribution, and public trust in the church faced its first significant cracks. Sylvester II, a man revered for his intellect and political acumen, left a legacy marred by fear-mongering and the tragic consequences of a baseless prophecy. Martin Luther, Germany, 1530. While Martin Luther is celebrated as a reformer who reshaped Christianity, he also dabbled in apocalyptic predictions that left a darker imprint on his legacy. In 1530, during the turbulence of the Protestant Reformation, Luther predicted that the world would not last beyond 1600. He cited the Book of Daniel and his belief that the Catholic Church was the Antichrist as evidence for his claims. Luther's prophecy resonated with a population already burdened by religious wars, plagues, and economic instability. Many of his followers believed that their suffering was a prelude to the end times, leading to a culture of despair and passivity. Tragically, Luther's apocalyptic rhetoric also intensified the animosity between Catholics and Protestants, escalating the violence of the Reformation. His prediction, like many before and after, proved false, leaving a trail of disillusionment and questioning among his followers. While Luther's reforms shaped Christianity for centuries, his foray into prophetic speculation revealed the dangers of intertwining personal beliefs with divine timelines. Pope Innocent III, Italy, 1284. Pope Innocent III, one of the most powerful popes in history, was a man of great ambition and even greater hubris. He declared that the world would end in 1284, calculating this date based on the rise of Islam, which he saw as a sign of divine wrath. Innocent III's prophecy did more than stir religious anxiety, it fueled an era of relentless crusades. Under his leadership, the Fourth Crusade, initially intended to reclaim Jerusalem, instead sacked the Christian city of Constantinople, leaving a trail of devastation that fractured the Byzantine Empire. His apocalyptic prediction only exacerbated the violence, as it painted every conflict with a brush of divine urgency. Innocent's followers believed they were fighting in the final battle between good and evil, leading to atrocities committed under the guise of holy war. When 1284 passed without incident, the disillusionment was palpable, but the damage had already been done. Innocent III's legacy, overshadowed by his failed prophecy, is a stark reminder of how apocalyptic fervor can justify unimaginable cruelty. William Miller, USA, 1844. Perhaps one of the most infamous false prophets in modern history, William Miller stands as a symbol of how apocalyptic predictions can devastate lives. A Baptist preacher in 19th century America, Miller predicted that Christ would return on October the 22nd, 1844. His calculations, derived from an intricate interpretation of the Book of Daniel, gained a massive following, known as the Millerites. As the fateful day approached, tens of thousands of followers sold their possessions, left their jobs, and gathered in fields to witness the Second Coming. The event, later dubbed the Great Disappointment, shattered these believers. Many were left destitute, their faith in shambles, and their communities ridiculed by the wider public. The psychological toll was immense, with reports of suicides and individuals institutionalized for mental breakdowns. While some Millerites regrouped and laid the foundation for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the scars of Miller's failed prophecy lingered for decades. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the power of charismatic leaders and the devastating impact of misplaced faith. Which country are you watching from, and what do you think about these predictions? Harold Camping, USA. What happens when a man predicts the end of the world not once, but 3 times and gets it wrong every single time? Harold Camping, a Christian radio broadcaster from California, first claimed the world would end in September 1994. When nothing happened, he recalibrated his timeline and announced May 21st, 2011 as Judgment Day. This time, Camping's prediction gained international attention. His followers spent millions on billboards, pamphlets, and advertisements warning of the impending apocalypse. Many quit their jobs, sold their possessions, and emptied their savings in preparation for the rapture. When May 21st passed uneventfully, Camping revised the date once more to October 21st, 2011. The result? Another colossal failure. The emotional and financial devastation among his followers was profound. Families were torn apart, individuals faced bankruptcy, and many experienced severe psychological trauma. Camping's repeated failures highlight the dangers of charismatic leaders who exploit faith for personal gain, leaving shattered lives in their wake. Joanna Southcott, England. Joanna Southcott, a self-proclaimed prophetess from Devon, England, took religious fanaticism to a new level in the early 19th century. Southcott claimed to receive divine revelations and gained a significant following among working-class individuals disillusioned with the Church of England. Her most infamous prediction was that she would give birth to the Messiah, whom she called Shiloh, in 1814, despite being a 64-year-old virgin. Her followers were so convinced of her prophecy that they abandoned their livelihoods and gathered in anticipation of the miraculous birth. Tragically, Southcott died later that year without delivering a child, leaving her followers in shock and despair. Many were ridiculed and ostracized for their beliefs, leading to social and financial ruin. Southcott's story serves as a grim reminder of how misplaced faith in a false prophet can devastate not only individuals but entire communities. John Wesley, England. John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, was a respected theologian and preacher, but even he wasn't immune to the allure of apocalyptic speculation. Wesley predicted that the millennium, heralding Christ's return, would occur in 1836. While he was cautious not to set specific dates, his writings created a sense of urgency among his followers. For Methodists, this belief shaped their lives, with many focusing on preparing for the end times rather than building for the future. Wesley's prediction, though not as sensational as others, had subtle but lasting consequences. When 1836 passed uneventfully, many felt betrayed and disillusioned, questioning the teachings of a man they had revered. This loss of trust weakened the Methodist movement in certain regions, demonstrating how even respected leaders can undermine their legacies by dabbling in prophetic speculation. Charles Taze Russell, USA. Charles Taze Russell, the founder of the movement that eventually became Jehovah's Witnesses, was another figure who built his influence on apocalyptic predictions. Russell calculated that Christ's invisible return occurred in 1874 and that the world would end in 1914. His teachings gained a devoted following, with his adherents making drastic lifestyle changes in anticipation of the apocalypse. When 1914 came and went without the world ending, Russell reinterpreted his prophecy, claiming that 1914 marked the beginning of the end rather than its conclusion. This constant shifting of goalposts led to widespread disillusionment among some of his followers, while others doubled down on their beliefs. The ripple effects of Russell's predictions are still felt today, as Jehovah's Witnesses continue to face scrutiny over their history of failed prophecies. For many who trusted Russell's vision, the emotional and social costs were enormous, proving once again that false prophets often leave behind trails of disappointment and pain. From Harold Camping's global spectacle of miscalculation to Joanna Southcott's tragic messianic delusion, the stories of these false prophets are as sobering as they are infuriating. These figures, whether driven by delusion or arrogance, manipulated the faith and fears of their followers, leaving behind legacies of shattered lives and broken trust. As you reflect on these tales, consider this. Why do such predictions continue to captivate people, and how can we safeguard ourselves against their destructive influence?